Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bartelle's Money Talk. I'm Johnny.
And I am Theresa. And the only thing we talk about here is money, money, money. And if you want to improve your money, you may want to get a better job. Where today we have an expert with us that's going to tell you what you can do to get a better job so you can increase your wages so you can retire with dignity. Mark, can you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Certainly. Hi, everyone. My name is Mark. In my day job, I am a fractional CTO, a fractional Chief Technology Officer. So I work with multiple companies in parallel, spending typically around 5 to 15 hours a week with each one of them as the CTO. But in parallel to this career, I got roped into helping MIT create a class about 20 some years ago on the skills that we never teach people. Skills like leadership, networking, negotiating, communication, team building, the stuff we hear is important. No one teaches us. So I helped create that class. I've been teaching it now for over 2 decades, along with great colleagues. And that led to my writing the book, The Career Toolkit, Essential Skills for Success That No One Taught You. I speak at conferences and corporate, and I also created the free Brain Bump app to help people better learn and utilize these skills. So I do a bunch of different things.
Perfect. Well, we cannot wait to hear what you have to say because most people in the age range of our audience, they are looking for better jobs. People don't stay at jobs as long as they used to,
Yes.
but they're moving up now to get more pay and better benefits.
Yes.
Okay, honey, let's get it going.
And then I want, Mark, could you kind of break down what a CTO is? Because I think you mentioned CTO. Could you break that down?
CTO is the Chief Technology Officer. So I oversee all the engineering. My companies usually are creating software or using a lot of technology, and they need me to help direct and guide that and supervise the engineers we have in-house and offshore.
Okay, perfect, perfect. And then I want to make sure everyone can hear you. Do you have your volume way up?
Let me turn up my gain.
Yes, because this is very important and very, very valuable. So if you can turn it up just a little bit.
Okay, how about now? It looks like I had a little technical problem with my microphone, but hopefully it's back. Sure. Oh, here we go. Is it coming through okay now?
Yeah, that's a little bit better.
Okay.
All right.
So, Mark, so you have a lot of valuable information, right? So my first question is, why do you think people need like a career plan? Because I know that was one of the things I noticed about your profile. So why do you think people need a career plan?
Imagine the following scenario. Your boss comes into your office on January 1st, and she says to you, here is a key project. 50% of our company's revenue depends on this project. Get it done by the end of the year. What do? Do you say, okay, sounds good. Tell you what, let's meet up December 31st. Cross your fingers. Let's hope I get it done because so much revenue depends on it. That's insanity. Instead, you say, wow, this is important. What do we need to do? We need to make sure we have success. We're going to create a project plan. We're going to do regular check-in. We're going to get off track because no plan ever works out exactly as you plan. But by doing the check-ins and getting input from experts and feedback and seeing how we're doing, we'll adjust, and that increases our chance of success. Well, if you would do a 1-year project that's worth half the company's revenue using such a more formal methodology than just crossing your fingers, why would we ever take our career, that's not 1 year, but decade, that's for many people 100% of their income, or if you have other methods, it's still a significant portion. Why would that? Would you just say, well, I'm going to cross my fingers and hope maybe I get a promotion or I get a new job in the future? You need that plan. You need to be that proactive. And we can use some of the same techniques. It doesn't ensure success, but a lack of a plan invites failure.
Okay. So we have some young listeners, millennials. Can you explain to them, in your opinion, exactly what is a career path?
For your career plan, it helps to start from the end goal. If you can, start with a long-term vision. If you don't have answers to this, we'll talk about that in a moment. Start with where do you want to be, maybe in 20 some years. And it's okay that's fuzzy. Maybe it's running your own business. Maybe it's being VP at some type of company doing something. Very long-term guiding star. Now, from there, we back out and say, okay, if you want to get that goal, what are the skills you will need? So for example, I knew I wanted to be a CTO. Now that meant I had to have engineering. And I'm certain when I started, I didn't have all the engineering skills I needed. But I quickly looked and realized there were other skills like leadership, like being able to hire people, like doing a budget. I never learned that stuff. So at some point between where I was as a new college grad and where I needed to be, I had to pick up those skills because no one was going to hire me without them. So you start to backtrack. So I have to get all these skills. Now, realistically, you're not going to become, let's say, a CTO without having been a VP of engineering. What are those skills? And you won't be a VP of engineering without being, say, a director of engineering. So we can map out that path. We can go back and then we say, what are the skills at each level? Now, we then start to go forward and say, how do I close the gap between where I am today and that next rung in the ladder? Here's an example. Suppose you want to be a director of whatever type of job you have. And that means managing about 15 to 20 people in the job you're looking. No one's going to say, well, you've never managed before, but let's take a chance on you managing 20. Could you find a way to manage a team of 5? Now, maybe that means you take a junior director role or some other title managing a team of 5. Maybe it means you're not necessarily the higher fire person, but you can be a lead on some project, supervising 5 people. And now you say, hey, I've done some of this before. So now the gap between we need someone who's managed 20 people, you're not going from 0 to 20, you're going from 5 to 20. And so you're narrowing that gap. So for each job on the rung, we want to say what is required. Now, you can find job descriptions, certainly, and you can look at those, but talk to people in the role as well, because there's a whole bunch of unlisted requirements. Find out what those are, and then you create a plan. If I'm here today, here's where I want to be in 5 years. What do I need to do today? What do I need to do maybe 2 or 3 years out? And then what do I need to do 3 to 5 years out to close that gap so in 5 years, I'm ready for that next job? But much like the project plan we talked about at this hypothetical company, you can lay it out. It's not going to work out exactly that way. There's going to be changes. There'll be global pandemics and recessions. These things happen, but that's okay. The key point is that you need to do a regular check-in. So something I'm going to ask you to do. You can pause this episode for this, but you have to promise to come back. Pause it for a moment, go to your phone, put in your phone a calendar event saying, think about my career plan, and set that as a recurring meeting for every 6 months. And now that you're back, you've got that in your calendar. You're not just going to go and wander, just like you have those weekly or monthly project check-ins. Well, now you've got that 6-month project check-in for your career. Might only be 30 or 60 minutes. You sit down and say, hey, I set out to learn these skills. Did I learn them? Have I learned them enough? Do I need to keep going on this? Or maybe I'm good enough for now. Time to switch to that next skill, or time to talk to my manager about how I start to pick up this next particular ability. So having this check-in on our plan helps us continue to evolve.
That is great. And so one thing I want to throw in here, Mark, which I'm sure you've seen it more than I have, but nowadays people want everything like right now. Can you give some words of advice for people who want to jump from being a staff person to being the VP of the whole company?
We do see that. I've seen that with my team sometimes. And really, I want you to think about this as a chess game. I was a competitive chess player growing up. And so I always had to think multiple moves ahead, not just my own, but what some of my opponent's moves could do. Yes, it'd be great if I could checkmate my opponent in the next move. I'd love to do that. Games would be much easier, but that's not how the world works. And so I'd have to think, hey, I'm not going to checkmate him now, but maybe I can some moves down the road. Or maybe I don't yet know how to checkmate my opponent, but can I capture the bishop? Hey, that's going to put me in a bear. And so you need to think long term. Don't just hit that home run your first time out. Get on base, create that plan. And remember, your career is decades long. You want to create a solid plan, a solid footing, than trying to go for that home run and then striking out, if you'll forgive me mixing metaphors from the start to the end of this answer.
That is good.
It is.
And so, but I just want to bring up the ugly side also.
It is.
And I'm sure you've heard about brown nosing.
Yes.
Can you give them some advice about that?
It is certainly unpleasant. Now, complimenting coworkers or your boss is fine when it's sincere. What we don't like are people who simply suck up trying to get ahead. And unfortunately, it does work with some managers. But if you're in that environment, that might be a signal to you, because it's not about your hard work. So then why do you want to work hard there? It's not going to get you ahead. And if you're saying, well, I can get ahead by brown nosing, okay, but will that get you ahead at the next job? Remember, you're thinking multiple moves ahead in this chess game. You want to build the skills, not just to get this next job, but to help you with the job after that and the one after that. And brown nosing, it works some places, but but it's not a good long-term strategy.
Mm.
So I would recommend, it is important to learn how to build your reputation within a company. Internal networking is really important. We think about external, meeting other people for new jobs. Internal network, meeting other people in your organization and building relationships with them, very important. But it should always be sincere and not simple flattery or brown nosing to try and get ahead.
Okay.
Yes, that's good advice, because you see that, and not all the time, but you can recognize when somebody's doing it. So absolutely, that's great advice. So and I've been to college. My wife's been to college. You've been to college. So why do you think they don't teach some of this in college when you go into like these universities? They don't have a class or something on this to kind of educate some of the actual people that's going to college about career planning.
The university system dates back about 1,000 years for modern universities. And the problem is they're run by professors. Now, professors are wonderful people, but they are very deep and narrow in their field. So here's what happened. When you say you want to be an accountant, for example, you go into college and a bunch of accounting professors, the experts in accounting, all came together and they said, well, if you want to be an accountant, we, the experts, tell you have to take these intro to accounting classes and then some of these intermediate level classes and take a couple of the advanced classes. Oh, and the college might ask you to take some math and history and other stuff. And if you take all these classes, we, the experts, bestow on you a piece of paper that says you have achieved a certain level of accounting knowledge. We're not saying you're a good accountant. We're certainly not saying you're a good employee. We're just saying you know this much. And that was fine for most companies. If you go back to corporate America mid-century, I always think of those scenes from Mad Men or the rows of desks of people where you're the cog in the machine and you've got your little inbox and outbox and your boss gives you a piece of paper in your inbox and you do the work and you put in your outbox and say, okay, what's next? And we could do that because you just did accounting or you just did mechanical engineering or whatever your job was. But then about 30 some years ago, things really changed. We started to gut out middle management and we got to more leaner teams and corporations. We got cross-functional. You had to be innovative. You weren't just tallying numbers. You were working in a cross-functional team. You had to be quick and nimble. And so now it wasn't just about your accounting skills. Now you suddenly had to lead people who weren't accountants or communicate with salespeople and engineers and other people who aren't like you. And all these new skills came into play. But the universities, because they're run by professors who tend to have this job that they stay in for years, they evolve very slowly. And it's unfortunately going to be another 20 to 50 years before the colleges really catch up to.
Wow. Well, earlier in our conversation, you mentioned building relationships. And so I'm sure you are aware that many people work from home and may have not even ever met their bosses. Can you give some insight or some advice on how people can build relationships when they work from home?
I've certainly been in that situation because I've been at virtual companies since 2017. I've gotten people together, but not all of them. So a few things to keep in mind. You can go out and meet people outside of your job. You can go to events in your city or in your metro area. And you don't even have to be work events. You can build your network with anything you do. I was a competitive ballroom dancer. I've got a lot of friends who are in my network who I met on the ballroom dancing circuit. If you go to church or synagogue or a mosque, you can meet people there and they can become friends or acquaintances and they are in your network. They are there to potentially help you. So we can meet people lots of different ways. Now, when it comes to your coworker, you say, I really want to build those relationships with people. I'm not in the same room and maybe we only get together once a year or not at all. Reach out to them. There's a couple programs out there. One is called, I think, donut.ai. Another is called SUP. S''UP. Disclaimer, a colleague of mine actually created that one. These are ones that are add-in Slack, that's instant message, where they just do these random assignments like, hey, you and you, go meet this. Now, you can meet, when you're in the same office, they'll say like, go meet, go get a cup of coffee. But if you're virtual, it says, hey, do a virtual meeting. And so it's just a kind of random, hey, connect with someone else. You're both at the same company and do a half-hour Zoom call once a week. Remember how much time you're saving. You're not commuting. You are saving
Right.
so many hours a week. Take
Yes.
one
Right.
of those and say, I'm going to use it to just chat with a colleague, not about work. Just like, hey, nice to meet you. So I'm in the accounting department. What do you do? How do you wind up here? Tell me a little about you, and start to build those relationships. And by the way, I'd recommend doing it twice, once with someone in your company and once with someone not in your company, maybe someone you haven't seen or talked to in years, a friend from college or high school, or just someone you've known for years that, well, you're in different places, you don't really get together that much. Take half an hour to just do a catch up by phone or by Skype or other video. It's a great way to keep those relationships warm and feel more connected.
That was a great answer.
Yeah, especially talking about these days in time work from home, because a lot of people work from home, and I guess you kind of feel isolated, right? When you work from home,
You can.
if you can, if you're not meeting or talking to people, you can definitely feel isolated. So that brings up this next thing I'm thinking about is like when you're interviewing, right? If you are going in for after you develop your career plan and you start exercising your career plan, and now you're going in for an interview to get one of these jobs or one of these positions that you had in your career plan. Could you give some tips on how to go in and do the interview on one of those jobs you have on the career plan?
There's a lot of concrete tips that you can get from the app and the book and on my
Okay.
website. I give that
Mm-hmm.
stuff away, but let's talk about. So there's a whole bunch. We can't get to them all, but let me
Okay.
give you an important approach. Interviewing is selling. Talk to your friends in sales and ask them for sales techniques, because the first thing you need to do when you're selling whatever product or service, you want to understand your customer, understand her or his need, and then sell into that. You don't want to sell a car, for example, and say, oh, look at this car. It's so beautiful. It's such luxury, fine Corinthian leather, and what a great radio. And in fact, the buyer's thinking, well, I want a car that's fuel efficient and that's safe for my family. Now, it might be that as well, but you're selling the wrong points. They're not hearing what they want to hear. If you find out, oh, they care about safety and fuel efficiency, start with that. And then later say, by the way, also there's nice leather and a good radio. But you want to sell into what your buyers, you as a candidate, are selling. You are selling yourself.
Wow.
By the way, as an interviewer, you are selling a job to the candidate. This is a bi-directional sale.
Right.
So it's important to understand what they are looking for. And unfortunately, most job descriptions are garbage. They're going to say X years of this, knowledge of that. And that's important, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff that they're probably not saying. So during the interview, it's kind of like a date. When you're on a date, everyone puts their best foot forward, but you really want to find out, like, what are the true values? Am I really going to connect with this person? And the same thing is true here. Find out, they say they want someone to lead the team. What is leadership to them? And does that align to what leadership is for me and the skills that I have leading? What are the types of challenges? What's the type of work culture they're looking for? Because if they're very team oriented, you're saying, well, I did this and I achieved that and I did all this stuff. They want to hear how you did as a team. And you could have just said, hey, we did this and we achieved that. And that's going to resonate so much better. So understand what the buyer is looking for and then sell to those.
Okay, that's wonderful. And I listen to a lot of financial experts, and most of them say that it does not matter where you graduated from. Is that correct?
I would agree with that. Now, if you have a brand name, now I have a few degrees from MIT. There's two potential little boosts, but these can be replicated other ways. So one is, okay, I do have, I suppose, a larger good network of college alumni, but you can build your own network, certainly. The second is you do get a little bit of branding. No one has ever met me, heard I went to MIT and said, you know, this is some really hard math. This might be a little hard for you. They'll say, okay, you went to MIT. We know you can handle it. There's also a negative side to that, which is they know I can do the math. They often think I can't do the other part. But you went to MIT. What do you know about people? You guys don't know that stuff.
Right.
But as you build up your personal reputation, your personal brand, you can establish that regardless of where you. Very importantly, it does not matter where you went to. Schools have floors, but not ceiling. You're less likely to find a complete idiot at an Ivy League school. You are absolutely going to find some geniuses at even community colleges.
Right.
Yes, you are.
And so don't feel, oh, I didn't go to a good school. Once you're a few years out of school anyway, they look more at your track record. What have you been doing? And it doesn't matter where you went to school. They're not looking at your GPA. No one's asked me for that in years. So
Wow.
Don't
Okay.
feel, oh, I didn't go to this brand name school. It doesn't matter. What matters is what you do with your career.
Oh, I love
I
that.
love that
I love
too,
that.
because that leads to, like, if you don't look at it in that sense, then a lot of times when you get ready to go to school and you have to, and you look at this school that costs $50,000 a semester versus a school that might cost you 10,000.
It may
Yes.
or may not be worth it. It's not like at schools like MIT, we have secret science formulas no one else has. We're teaching the same history, the same
Wow.
science. Now, you might have access at MIT. We do have a nuclear reactor. Not all
Mhm.
schools have that. So you
Oh,
might get
wow.
a
Yeah.
few of those things.
Mhm.
You might have a school that's known for a center on creative writing or known for
Mhm.
something that's a
Mhm.
little unique.
Hmm.
But studies have shown that people who are going to be successful because they are smart, because they have a good work ethic, because they know the importance of these other skills, these non-technical skills, they are going to be successful regardless of where they go. So don't feel you have to go to. It doesn't hurt. It's a
Mhm.
nice tailwind, but it is no limitation if you don't go.
Thank you so
Nice.
much for sharing that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that because I can assure you that can be a benefit for someone. That was very powerful. And a lot of people think the bigger the school, the better the school, the better the job, which brings better money. So thank you for clarifying that. Okay. And so what I want to add though, times have changed. I don't want us to go without you discussing this. What are some unethical questions that employees may have to face now that we're post COVID?
Mm.
Employers may be asking about your family situation at home or about marriage and kids. Legally, now, I should note, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice, but in many states, they're not supposed to ask those personal questions. They might discover that just because if you're doing a virtual interview and your kid runs up to you, they're going to put two and two together. Or they
Right.
might see drawings from a 6-year-old in your background. They can figure these
Mhm.
things out. They're certainly not allowed to ask about that. I have seen the questions that are being asked for equal opportunity. They really seem to have expanded. It used to just be, I think, disability, race, and I think there was one other. Maybe it may ask gender as well. And now I'm thinking
Mhm.
things on sexuality and others. Makes me a little nervous. I know they're trying to be equal, and these are usually data that go into a separate track.
Mhm.
But I also want to make sure companies don't start blurring the line and asking about this at work or in the office.
And how do you handle it when they do?
Yes.
When they do, you're going to have to, it will depend a little on the nature of the conversation. I remember I was interviewing for a job many years ago. We were
Mhm.
in a coffee shop. It was an early stage company. They hadn't yet got to an
Mhm.
office. And after we went through all the interview questions, we're just chatting. And she asked me, so are you married? Any kids? And I know she didn't mean it as, oh, let me assess this. She was just trying to make conversation. The formal part of the interview was over. We were waiting for the check. So
Mhm.
I know she didn't happen to mean it that way, and I was okay answering it. If someone does, you have to decide because you could just politely say, hey, I had an HR person at my last company who beat into our heads. We're not supposed to be answering questions like this. And so what you're doing there is you're saying, it's not me not wanting to answer. This is how I've been trained by others. I'm
I like that.
following the rules. So that gets
Mhm.
you off the hook. Now, unfortunately, some companies, they might be asking anyway and they may be judging you for it. And the reality is really hard if you do say, oh, I am married, or
Mhm.
you don't want to answer that question, they could probably, unfortunately, and I'm not a lawyer, so take this with a grain of salt, they could probably find a way to reject you and claim it was for a different reason. Oh, I didn't like your answer to this question.
Oh.
Mm.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, you might be hurting yourself this way. Check with a lawyer on all of this again.
Mhm.
I don't want you to think, oh, well, Mark's telling me to do this. It can be very tricky. If you're an interviewer, just please review those questions. You should not be asking about family life and religion or sexuality. If you do slip up and realize you ask it, like in this example I gave, please, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to ask that. Please don't
Mhm.
answer.
Mhm.
And just
Okay, that was great
Good.
information too.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So Mark, you said a lot of this, what our discussion today, you can find in your book called the Career Toolkit, correct? So I know there was like one thing that really captivated my wife and I, and I don't know if it's an approach or just an advice, but in there it was a question that you said that you can actually make $30,000 by reading your book, right? So
Absolutely.
can you explain that? How can you make $30,000 by like reading your book and taking the advice in your book?
Page 175, I put $30,000 into every book. Just open to page
All right,
175.
you're gonna fly off the shelf.
Whoa.
Here's how to do it. It's a bold statement. I stand by it. Imagine the following scenario. You are 25 years old. You go out for a job interview and you get an offer for $60,000. But instead of taking the job as is, you say, wait a second, I have learned how to negotiate. You're not the world's best negotiator. You're not solving the Middle East. You've just learned a couple techniques from my book, or to be honest, other books as well. And so instead of taking a job, you say, I'd like to talk to you about my compensation. And you use the techniques and you negotiate for $1,000 more. This is a few emails back and forth. This is a 5 or 10-minute phone call. And so now you've gotten yourself in a few minutes after having read the book or learned other ways. You just got yourself $1,000 more. That's not a big lift. We can imagine doing that. If you do nothing else, if you stay in this job for the next 40 years until you retire, you just got yourself $1,000 more for 40 years. You just got yourself $40,000. But of course, you're not going to be in this job for 40 years. You're going to take other jobs. You're going to get raises. You're going to get promotions. You're going to negotiate for more than just $1,000. And so, like compound interest, learning to negotiate is going to add tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars to your lifetime earning. Now, here's the even bigger secret. We can do the math with negotiations. We say, okay, $1,000, this many years, I get it. This applies to all the other skills in the book. If you get just a little bit better at leading, we're not talking about you are the best leader in the world, just a little bit better, what happened? You stand out in your job. You get more opportunities. You get promoted slightly faster. You stand out in the interview. No one says you're a better leader, here's $1,000 more, but you'll get these opportunities, which in turn will compound, leading to more success, financial and otherwise. If you are a better networker, no one says, you're a good networker, I'm going to pay you $1,000 more, but more opportunities come your way. Each of these skills getting just a little bit better creates a compounding effect that can add 6 figures to your lifetime earnings easily.
Well, I like that
I like that
method.
too.
And we have millennials that's watching us. This is not a complicated method, but now I just need you to tell them about your book, The Career Toolkit. What is it about?
There is a book and an app. So the book, The Career Toolkit, Essential Skills for Success That No One Taught You. It's a book with 10 chapters on 10 skills. Now, you've heard these skills before and you've seen the lists, and some are bigger, some are smaller. It's the same list. But in my book, the chapters are broken down as follows. How to create and execute a career plan, Chapter 1. Chapter 2, working effectively. Things like managing your manager, understanding corporate culture, corporate politics, how to fit in and make the most of it. Chapter 3 is on interviewing as a candidate and as a hiring manager. The next section, 3 chapters, one on leadership, one on people management, and then another chapter on process management. The final section has 4 chapters: communication, networking, negotiation, and ethics. Each chapter stands alone. So you might say, I want to jump right to that negotiation chapter. I want to get that $30,000 now. Go right to chapter 9. Skip 1 through 8. You can start at any chapter.
Okay.
Each chapter gives you a mental shift, how to think differently about the skill. And then what are concrete things you can do to execute on and be better. And then there's a summary and follow-up for each of the chapters. And then we've got the free companion app. Brain Bump is an app because how often do you read a book and you say, wow, this is great? Or you hear a podcast episode like this is great, so much good advice. How much do you remember? That's the problem.
It is.
And when you read those networking tips, where are you reading them? Sitting at home. Where do you need them? 2 months later at that conference, and you're saying, well, I'm not going to carry the book with me. So with the Brain Bump app, it's completely free and it is available on iTunes and Android. You download the app and you can get all the tips from my book. It's like someone went through with a highlighter. You can get for scores of other books, podcasts, events. We keep adding more content every month and they all sit in your pocket. So when you're at that conference, you can open up the app and you tap networking as a topic, and there's all the networking advice right there where you need it.
Oh.
Or you can get a daily reminder. Think like a daily affirmation or a daily Bible verse, but on a topic you want when you want it. So you might want to get leadership tips every day at 9 a.m. because you're leading a new team. You might want strategy tips at 2:55 p.m. every Wednesday because you've got a 3 p.m. strategy meeting Wednesday. The key is that you control what you receive and when you receive it. So it's never annoying, I keep getting all these texts and other things.
Mhm.
Not what I need. You say, I need this advice at this time, and that's what the app delivers.
That is wonderful.
I like that. And you could download for free. I like that.
Yeah, after you get the book. But
100%
now
free.
that's wonderful. But now you need to tell them where they can find the book, the title of the book.
Okay, the websites, the book, the Career Toolkit, Essential Skills for Success That No One Taught You. Go to thecareertoolkitbook.com. That's the website. And from there, you can go to Amazon. You can find links to find in your local bookstores. There's electronic versions and physical versions. There's a whole bunch of other free stuff on the website, articles and resources that give away for free. That's all at thecareertoolkitbook.com. For the app, you can find the Brain Bump app. It's a nudge for your noggin. The Brain Bump app you can find in both app stores, or go to brainbumpapp.com. And there you can follow links to the stores. There's a 90-second video showing you how the app works. You can find all that completely free at brainbumpapp.com.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Nice. I like it. Well, Mark, wow, you gave some great information today. So we really appreciate your time on Bartelle's Money Talk, and this was great content. So we hope our listeners really receive this and take really heed to the content that you provided, because it's really good and it can actually produce more income for them in the future. So thank you, Mark, for your time, and we appreciate your time on Bartelle's Money Talk, and we look forward to speaking with you again.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Of course. Thanks, Mark.